Eleanor woke to the sound of music. Not the music of instruments, but something more fundamental, the music of light on water, of morning breaking, of the world breathing. She opened her eyes to find the train filled with a soft, shimmering radiance that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. She sat up, pushing the blanket aside, and looked out the window. Her breath caught in her throat. The luminous forest had given way to a landscape of water. Lakes stretched in all directions, each one made of glass or something like glass. Perfectly smooth, perfectly clear, perfectly still. The train ran along a causeway that seemed to float just above the surface. And beneath them, Eleanor could see straight through the transparent water to depths that should have been dark, but instead glowed with their own internal light. The sky above was the color of pearl, neither fully day nor fully night, holding both sunrise and starlight in impossible balance. Cast no reflection on the glass lakes. Instead, the lakes reflected things that weren't there, or rather, things that were there but invisible to ordinary sight. Eleanor pressed her face to the window and saw wonders. In one lake, the reflection showed a city of spires and bridges, delicate as lace, built from something that looked like crystallized music. In another, she saw a garden where flowers the size of houses bloomed in slow motion, their petals unfurling over what might have been hours or days. A third lake reflected a library with endless shelves, books flying like birds between them, pages fluttering open to show stories writing themselves in real time. The glass lakes of reflection. Came a voice behind her, and Eleanor turned to find a woman standing in her doorway. She wasn't Conductor Orion, but she wore a similar uniform of midnight blue, though hers had silver embroidery in the pattern of waves and ripples. Her hair was long and the color of moonlight, and her eyes were the exact shade of the lakes outside, clear and deep and full of secrets. "I'm Conductor Luna," the woman said with a warm smile. "Orion asked me to check on you this morning. How did you sleep?" "Better than I have in years," Eleanor admitted, surprised to realize it was true. She felt rested in a way she'd almost forgotten was possible, as if the train's gentle movement had rocked away years of accumulated exhaustion. "The midnight train has that effect," Luna said, stepping into the compartment with a grace that made her seem like she was gliding rather than walking. "May I join you for breakfast?" Before Eleanor could answer, Luna produced a small bell from her pocket and rang it once, a clear chime that seemed to resonate with the music of the lakes outside. Immediately, the table between the seats transformed. The silver tea service was replaced by a full breakfast spread, fresh pastries that steamed gently, fruit that glowed with impossible colors, scrambled eggs that somehow tasted like morning sunshine, and coffee that smelled like every good memory Eleanor had ever had. "Please," Eleanor said, gesturing to the seat across from her. "I'd love the company." They ate in comfortable silence for a while, Eleanor too mesmerized by the changing views outside to make much conversation. The train moved slowly along the causeway, and each lake they passed showed different reflections. One showed Eleanor herself, but not as she was now. She saw herself as a child of 7, splashing in a puddle with complete abandon, laughing with her whole body. Then herself at 15, standing on a stage, holding a painting she'd created, her face glowing with pride before self-consciousness had learned to dim that light. Then herself at 22, dancing alone in her apartment, moving with a freedom she'd lost somewhere in the years since. What are these reflections? Eleanor asked softly. Why am I seeing myself? The glass lakes reflect truth, Luna explained, sipping her coffee. Not the truth of what is, but the truth of what could be, what was, what might yet become. This stretch of the journey is where passengers confront their own reflections, the selves they've lost, the selves they might find again, the selves they're afraid to become. As if to demonstrate her point, the train passed another lake, and this time Eleanor saw herself as she might have been if she'd made different choices. In this reflection, she was teaching art to children in a sun-filled studio, her hands covered in paint, her smile genuine and unguarded. The vision was so vivid, so real, that Eleanor felt a sharp pang of loss for this life she'd never lived. I gave up painting, she said quietly, not sure why she was confessing this to a stranger. After college, everyone said it wasn't practical, that I needed a real job. So I went into marketing. I'm good at it, but You're not happy, Luna finished gently. I'm not unhappy, Eleanor protested. But the words felt hollow even as she said them. I don't know. Somewhere along the way, I stopped feeling things as deeply, stopped noticing beauty, stopped letting myself get excited about anything. I wake up, go to work, come home, watch television, go to sleep, repeat. I'm 35, and I feel like I'm 90. That's why you're here, Luna said. The midnight train doesn't come for people who are happy with their lives. It comes for those who've lost their way, who need to be reminded of who they really are beneath all the compromises and practicalities and slow dimming of their inner light. The train entered a tunnel, and for a moment, everything went dark except for small lights that lined the walls like stars. When they emerged, they were in a different part of the lake region, and the water here was darker, the reflections more troubling. Eleanor saw herself burned out and exhausted, sitting at a desk at 3 in the morning, her eyes hollow. She saw herself at 40, at 50, at 60, growing more tired, more disconnected, more like a ghost of a person than an actual living being. She saw herself old and alone, looking back on a life of careful choices and safe decisions with nothing but regret. I don't want that to be my future, Eleanor whispered, tears pricking her eyes. It doesn't have to be, Luna said firmly. These are possible futures, Eleanor, not certain ones. The lakes show you what might happen if you continue on your current path, yes, but they also show you the alternatives. Look, she pointed to another lake, and Eleanor saw different visions. Herself painting again, creating art that moved people to tears. Herself teaching workshops, helping others reconnect with their creativity. Herself traveling to beautiful places, sketching in journals filled with color and life. Herself older but vibrant, surrounded by students and friends and work she loved. Her face lined with laugh lines rather than stress. How do I get there? Eleanor asked. To that future instead of the other one? That's what the journey to Aurora Valley is for, Luna said. Each night, each landscape teaches you something. The luminous forest showed you your forgotten dreams, the things you've let go that still wait for you to reclaim them. The glass lakes are showing you the consequences of your choices, past, present, and future. They're asking you to truly see yourself, without the filters and stories you tell yourself about who you are and who you have to be. The train continued through the deep reflection, and Eleanor couldn't look away from the vision in the water. The woman she could become, vibrant and alive, living authentically and joyfully, creating beauty and sharing it with the world.